Tell me, you trained, you said originally they told you were training to take off on a very short runway. That's as much information as you had, wasn't it?
What they were going to do, see, nobody had ever touched Tokyo or Japan through the war because they didn't have enough range. So what they were going to do, the B-25 had big engines and a lot of power, and they're going to take it off of a carrier, which they'd never done. So they trained 2 flights. And
that was the Doolittle flight, was the first
Doolittle. Doolittle led the first flight. I was on the second flight. And we did not know what we were going to do. We got orders from Washington every morning to what kind of training we were going to do. And through all of it, we couldn't get up over 200 feet. We had to fly low all the time. Anyway, we dropped bombs, we strafed, and we did everything. Still not knowing what the hell are we going to do. And then all of a sudden they came in one day, early in the morning, and said, okay, you guys get your gear, you're going down to Florida and get your airplanes. Well, where are we going from there? We don't know. So anyway, we got down to Florida in a group, 2 squadrons, and they gave us brand new airplanes, said now go out and fly, see that everything's all right, see how much fuel they use and so forth, which we did. Then we came back and they said, well, they've of course fueled everything as they did every day. What are we going to do now? I wait for orders. We'll get some in the morning. So finally we got orders. And we're going to fly from Florida down to India. And we had to land on a runway that they were just building. And they had it timed. We went off, each airplane flew 30 minutes apart. And I was the first airplane, and we were supposed to get there just as they finished the runway, which doesn't make you feel very good, you know. Anyway, after all this flight, we got there, and here's this big, long runway, and it looked like metal. I thought, uh-oh. Because what they did when they built a dirt runway, they put metal on it, pads, holes about that big around, and when you landed on it, it gradually worked into the ground and gave it base so it would hold the airplane up. Well, I landed on it, and I had tires that were supposed to be out of an airplane going where there's ice. They had springs in the tread. And of course those springs hit the metal, and I thought we'd blown up. Oh, you never heard such a noise. Anyway, we got in, and we ended up in Karachi, India. And still didn't know what we were going to do. The next thing we knew was they got us all in and said, we're going to load your airplanes. What are you loading them on? You're going on the carrier. Uh-oh. So Doolittle and his flight got on the carrier and they took off. But we had to wait to see how they went. So we still couldn't do anything. And finally, we got word back that they'd hit Tokyo. But what had happened, there was an overcast, which was ideal. But as they were going along in this aircraft carrier without any protection, here comes a Zero out of the clouds down and flies pretty close to them. But they didn't know whether he saw them or not. And then he went back up into the clouds. So here they are. They want to go further.
Before they head off
They further. But if he has seen them and he calls all the Zeros, they'll all be out and nothing flat, and that'll be the end. So finally they decided, well, all we can do is take off if we get a break with the wind and we fly as slow as we can possibly make China, the coast. So that's what they did. Well, a lot of them, some of them made it, some of them didn't. They bailed out and they bellied in where they could and so forth. So then they sent word back they were going to unload the airplanes, and we were to go on into China for the 14th Air Force. So we didn't go on the Tokyo flight. And that was the first time Tokyo had been hit. And the morale in the States was very poor. But once they heard we'd hit Tokyo, why, everybody thought, oh boy, we're going to make it. So anyway, we went on to China. And China had nothing. The Japs had been in China since 1935 on the whole coast. So we had to go in and start fighting our way around. And that's what we did. And we find everything we had to be flown in from the States. Gasoline, everything. So we took with what we had, and we forgot about the book, and we flew the airplane with what we could do best. And we made it. We made it through to the end of the war, proved that you could win a war with just aircraft.
And that was the first time. I'm just going to do a feedback test, just to fine-tune one thing. Don't talk for a minute, you'll hear some loud squeaks and squawks in your ear. I'm just measuring at what point the feedback happened. So I could hear it happening when that was going on. I'm just going to make sure that's pressed in firmly. This makes the aid feedback that we measure at point. Normally for a very high-powered mould you need an extremely tight mould with the aid. So we're trying to get away with this. When we've had tighter moulds they've hurt him each time.
Oh, I see.
Now it's being steady.
Yeah, don't talk. Pretty close to feedback with that mould. I'll just take it back a fraction from that. Still tickling when you talk?
Just a bit when I talk the loudest.
I'll just save it like that today. Then I'm going to switch back to your old one and see if there's any difference. Because if there's no difference, it's not worth worrying about.
You mentioned you have an appointment on the Friday.
Yeah.
We're going to Sydney.
That's all right. Then we'll find a time to get him back. I'm just looking at when...
The following week will be...
Yeah. He can try it for a few weeks. That's fine. I usually have one high-powered one here. That's all, just for people.
Okay.